The final episode of Dune Prophecy Season 1 has finally arrived on Max, and there's a lot to break down in a spin-off set in Denis Villeneuve's universe. For me, episode 6 was a good conclusion to the season, one that gave us some well-needed answers, and one that also posed some big questions going into season 2. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the plot and explaining the ending of episode 6 in the aim to help you guys put together a much greater picture of this growing Dune universe on the small screen. This analysis will contain spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen the episode yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my future content surrounding Dune Prophecy, Dune Messiah and beyond, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into my explained video for Dune Prophecy Episode 6. The Season 1 finale delivers quite a lot in its 90-minute duration. Episode 6, named The High-Handed Enemy, skillfully intertwines past and present narratives to reach its climax. It becomes evident that Valya Harkonnen's grip on the Sisterhood is weaker than she believes, leading to significant consequences as she focuses all her efforts on thwarting Desmond Hart on Seleucus Secundus. As Valya and her sister Tula Harkonnen find themselves more deeply entangled in this escalating conflict, Wallach 9 becomes an easy target for Sister Lila, who remains under the influence of her ancestral spirits. Among these spirits is Valya's longtime foe Dorotea, who seizes control of Lila's body to unleash her vengeance on the Harkonnen sisters, aiming to transform the Sisterhood back to its original path. Meanwhile, on Seleucus Secundus, Emperor Javicco Corrino uncovers the harsh reality of his involvement in all the conspiracy. At first thought, the Sisterhood emerges as his sole chance to maintain his grip on power, while Desmond Hart conspires with Empress Natalia. We kick off episode 6 with a flashback for Tula, watching through her eyes as the moment from episode 1 where Valya took action against Dorotea takes place. From her perspective, we see young Valya wield the voice to force Mother Dorotea into taking her own life. Tula, along with a young Francesca and Kasia, vow to fabricate a story, asserting that Dorotea's suicide was a result of her sorrow over the death of her grandmother, Rakella. In this moment, we also get revealed to us that Valya unexpectedly supports Tula through her pregnancy, even though Ori Atreides was the father. Of course, in episode 5, it was revealed that Tula and Ori's child was Desmond Hart, meaning that consequences would be coming for the Harkonnen sisters. But in the past, it seems like Valya gave Tula some initial support surrounding this pregnancy. Following this, Valya reveals to Tula, Francesca and Kasia that Anirul, the advanced thinking machine tech on Wallach 9, was responsible for the breeding index created by Rakella. This machine indicates a potential union in the future between Emperor Javicco Corrino and Natalia. Their union would create a daughter whom the Sisterhood could nurture to become a leader of the Imperium. And of course, that is implying the known plan of putting Princess Yanez on the throne. To facilitate this plan, Kasia will take on the role of truthsayer for the Imperial House, while Francesca will imprint Javicco to ensure his loyalty to the Sisterhood and keep him occupied until Natalia is of marrying age. In a private moment, Valya also confides in Tula that her son, the first ever blend of Harkonnen and Atreides bloodlines, possesses the potential to transform the universe if they guide him wisely. To solidify Valya's dominance over the Sisterhood as the new Mother Superior, she and her supporters then confront the last of Dorotea's followers. Through the power of the voice, they force each of Dorotea's followers to make a choice, and that is to face death or pledge their loyalty to Valya. The only one who opts for loyalty is the young sister Avila, who we've seen in the later timeline. But later on, we share one last moment in the past with Tula. Filled with dread about the implications for her son, Tula resolves to send the child away after giving birth, with Francesca assisting her in exchanging the infant for a stillborn. Tula tells her son that she wishes for him to have the freedom to forge his own destiny, and that this is the only gift she can offer him. After this, we then come back to the present. Tula and Sister Nazir, a skilled Suk doctor who was seen a few episodes prior, investigate the Omnius virus and its impact, which has preyed on its victims through fear. Nazir contends that Desmond couldn't have created the virus himself, but rather he was turned into a weapon by someone else. Together, they devise a strategy to reverse engineer the virus's effects, recalling that Kasha, a master of Prana Bindu, the technique of manipulating the body at a molecular level, was unable to halt the virus due to her lack of understanding. Nazir volunteers and initially shows resilience against the virus, but eventually she falls victim to it as well. The results of the test lead Tula to the unsettling conclusion that the virus is not of natural origin, suggesting that it is machine-made. After conferring with the thinking machine Anirul, Tula makes the decision to leave Wallach 9 and confront Desmond Hart directly. And while Tula quietly slips away to Seleucia Secundus, Sister Emmeline overhears her travels from Sister Avila and is continuing to share the teachings of Mother Dorotea to an increasing crowd of acolytes. Speaking of Dorotea, it seems as though she has finally returned through Lila. She takes over Sister Lila's body and persuades Sister Jen to release her restraints. Once she escapes, Dorotea then discovers Emmeline delivering a sermon in the library, and she is taken aback to find out that Valya has assumed the role of Mother Superior. Emmeline leads Dorotea to Valya's office, and when Jen manages to escape and inform Emmeline about the unfolding situation, Emmeline realizes that she is conversing with Dorotea, not Lila, and chooses to assist her. They head to the courtroom together, where Dorotea destroys a pipe to drain the central pond. Gathering the other sisters, Dorotea reveals to them the remnants of her loyal companions, which are submerged below. She uses this to make the other sisters aware of Valya and Tula's lies, and pledges to steer the Sisterhood back to its past course, which essentially means dismantling the breeding index maintained by the thinking machine Anirul. As a devoted Butlerian zealot, Dorotea belongs to a religious faction that denounces the use of such machines, ultimately destroying the very thinking machine her grandmother employed to elevate the Sisterhood's power and status. And as she does so, Emmeline observes with hope, while Sister Jen is filled with dread about the future. Currently, the duration of Dorotea's control over Lila's body remains uncertain, but for now, what we do know is that the Sisterhood is being swayed away from the Harkonnen sisters. This brings us back over to Seleucia Secundus, where much of the remainder of episode 6 takes place. Desmond Hart, as the new Bashar under Emperor Corrino, interrogates Kieran Atreides, seeking information about the Sisterhood's role in the rebellion against the Emperor. Despite his deep-seated animosity towards both the Harkonnens and the Sisterhood, Kieran remains defiant and is later returned to the suspension cells. Meanwhile, Princess Yanez attempts to rescue him, but is caught by her mother, Empress Natalia, and ends up getting arrested as well. In another part of the palace, Javicco awakens beside his lover, Sister Francesca, who informs him that she must leave. Unhappy with her departure, the Emperor devises a scheme to send Natalia on a diplomatic mission, creating an opportunity for Francesca to stay. And we learn that Yanez's arrest catches everyone off guard, including Valya. In the Harkonnen apartment on Seleucia Secundus, she gathers with Francesca and Theodosa. To begin with, Theodosa reveals her origins as a Tleilaxu experiment capable of shapeshifting, a skill known as face dancing, which we saw 2 episodes prior. With this in mind, they brainstorm a strategy which includes using Theodosa's ability to eliminate Javicco and rescue Princess Yanez. While this happens at the Imperial Palace, Javicco confronts Desmond regarding Yanez's arrest, and Hart expresses his anger that the Emperor would even think about reinstating the Sisterhood. So in a bit of a situation, Javicco calls Valya for a meeting, while Francesca welcomes Theodosa as a guest at the palace, putting their scheme in action. Before that meeting happens though, Javicco encounters Natalia in their quarters, accompanied by Desmond Hart. Natalia informs Javicco that his position is merely ceremonial and that she and Desmond are really the true rulers. This makes Javicco realise that despite being Emperor, he has never truly held power, and he now views the Sisterhood as his final chance. And when he does then meet Valya, who is seated on the throne, she, like Natalia, diminishes his authority, even disclosing that his affection for Francesca stems from her imprinting on him. She says to him that his reign is now reaching its end. In response, Javicco calls for Valya's arrest, unaware that this is all part of her plan. And we now come to what that involves. Valya initially intended to trade Yanez for a disguised Theodosa, but her strategy has to adapt to the arrival of Desmond Hart. So on the spot, Theodosa takes on the guise of one of Desmond's soldiers, buying Valya, Yanez and Kieran the time to make their escape. The plan proves effective as Theodosa is able to wound Desmond as the soldier, but she is stopped from causing him death and he has her imprisoned in the suspension chamber. Still, she allows Valya and the others to break free from the palace and make their way to the spaceport. Their journey is fraught with other problems though, as Yanez and Kieran must engage in a battle against the palace guards, and Valya has to confront Desmond and his abilities head on. While this happens, in the Emperor's chambers, Javicco faces Francesca, demanding some answers. To his shock, she confesses that she has fallen for him, revealing that the plot to assassinate him was orchestrated by Valya and not her. This somewhat mirrors what we saw with Tula and Ori Atreides back in episode 3, and like the outcome of that relationship, this one also has a tragic end too. Overwhelmed by despair, Javicco takes his own life before Francesca. As she grieves for him, Natalia uses what eventually becomes the Gom Jabbar on Francesca, a needle that she was meant to employ against Javicco. With both lovers now dead, Natalia hastily exits and declares that the Emperor has now been killed. So we're left with uncertainty surrounding the future of the Imperium following the death of Javicco Corrino. His legitimate heir Yanez has gone off with Valya, leaving the throne in a precarious position. And based on what happens here, I think this scenario presents two main contenders come next season, and they include both Constantine and Empress Natalia. The only other thing to mention that might affect this plotline in Season 2 is the brief scene we get surrounding Baron Harrow Harkonnen. In the Harkonnen apartment, we see that Valya's nephew retrieves the thinking machine he received from Desmond in episode 5 to keep an eye on Valya. This device now holds evidence of her conspiracy to assassinate the Emperor. So this could be another thing that is used against Valya, and something that will make it difficult for her to put Yanez or another sister in power. But this brings us to the final act of Season 1, where we get a lot of crucial developments and some reveals that tease and set up a Season 2. Tula reaches the Seleucia Secundus spaceport and she spots Kieran and Yanez fleeing, indicating that Valya is confronting Desmond Hart. The Mother Superior herself overcomes his guards and challenges him to unleash his abilities upon her. She stands prepared and he unleashes the fear virus. But in doing this, he is also incapacitated and his right eye struggles to cope. And Valya, under the influence of Desmond's fear virus, experiences a vision similar to those of the other sisters, yet hers is uniquely shaped by her own memories. She finds herself back on the icy landscape of Lankivel, where she relives desperately trying to save her brother Griffin from drowning in the frozen lake. Just as she manages to pull him to safety using the voice, Tula appears at the spaceport, urging her to release her fears. In Valya's vision, Griffin then accuses her of all of the troubles, causing the ice around her to begin cracking. Tula urges her to allow the fear to flow through her, something that may foreshadow Dune's famous litany against fear. This helps Valya conquer her trepidation and reach the conclusion of the vision, where she is met by the gaze of the mechanical blue eyes that we've seen throughout Season 1. The two blue lights that appeared to be eyes were actually just one eye of the thinking machine, distorted into a double vision due to Desmond Hart's impaired sight. It becomes clear that this vision then reveals Desmond's memories after being attacked by Shai-Hulud on Arrakis. The blue eyes belong to a sentient machine implanting devices into his right eye, and we see a shadowy figure looming over him. We don't see who that figure is, but the episode does give us plenty of clues, and I will go into this a bit more at the end. But emerging from the vision, Valya confides in Tula that she is aware of what they did to Desmond. However, she remains in the dark about his true identity, only knowing that thinking machine tech is now inside him. Essentially, his eye is the virus and he is the unknown enemy's weapon. Valya decides that she must kill Desmond, but Tula stops her using the voice and reveals Desmond's identity. When Tula discloses that Desmond is indeed her son, it becomes clear that Valya will not be taking Desmond's life, and Tula is no longer willing to play the smaller sister. Valya considers the situation for a moment and understands that this is Tula's issue to deal with. Valya then shares her next move, stating that if the shadows are where the enemy wants to fight, then that is where she will go. When Valya reveals her intention to depart and carry on her work discreetly, Tula uses this moment to reach out to the son that she left behind. However, her attempt ultimately ends with Desmond ordering her arrest. Desmond's past is marked by being sent away and enduring a difficult life, so building a bond with his lost mother will require more time. They do share a heartfelt embrace and some meaningful looks though, hinting at the possibility of a better future together. However, for Valya, Yanez and Kieran, their destiny awaits on the desert planet of Arrakis. The final scene shows them stepping onto the landscape of the desert planet, and Valya then speaks to Princess Yanez. She says to her, "This is where our journey to confront our foe starts." So for now, we'll have to wait until season 2 to see what comes of that journey. So we end season 1 with Valya accompanied by Yanez and Kieran, ready to explore the path to the shadowed enemy on Arrakis. Valya's fascination with Arrakis is rooted in Desmond Hart's initial encounter with the Sandworm. Prior to the events of Season 1, a mysterious entity managed to recover Desmond's body and integrated a thinking machine into him, aiming to unleash a new iteration of the Omnius Plague. This iteration of the plague is triggered by fear, resulting in the deaths of Karsha and Pruitt Richese, while gradually infecting the Sisterhood and haunting their dreams. Valya is determined to uncover who orchestrated Desmond Hart's mission, with Arrakis as the ideal starting point for her investigation. She has brought Yanez along for her protection, as Yanez represents the Sisterhood's choice to ascend the Imperial throne, thereby ensuring their dominance over the known universe. Kieran harbours distrust towards Valya and the Harkonnens, but his primary focus is safeguarding Yanez. Despite his reservations about the Imperium's immense power, his love for Yanez drives him to support her. So come this ending, starting with Desmond, his story reveals that his extraordinary abilities stem from a thinking machine implant, which enables him to unleash the Omnius Plague. However, the identity of the individual who chose Desmond as a candidate remains a mystery. This unseen character harbours a desire to dismantle the Sisterhood and strategically selected Desmond, leveraging his deep-seated animosity towards the organisation as a tool. It's likely that whoever this figure is has a personal vendetta against the Sisterhood, possibly rooted in events from the Butlerian Jihad. At the minute, I have 3 main theories based on what we saw with Desmond here, and the first is to do with the Bene Tleilax. Initially, many of us theorized that Desmond could be a Gola, an artificial human created from the remains of a dead individual by the Bene Tleilax. However, that possibility became unlikely. But after this final episode, there is still some link to the Bene Tleilax through the details that were revealed. This group is notorious for their genetic enhancements through experimentation, setting them apart from the Bene Gesserit's more regulated breeding practices. With it being revealed that Theodosa is actually a shapeshifter, resulting from the Tleilaxu experiments, the show has confirmed the existence of the Tleilax. While the finale leaves the identity of Desmond's captor ambiguous, all signs suggest that it could be an adversary of the Sisterhood, meaning there's a good chance that it could be to do with the group later known as the Bene Tleilax. Furthermore, Desmond's vision at the end showed that he was on an operating table undergoing a procedure where a thinking machine is implanted into his right eye. This granted him the ability to unleash the fear virus created by the machines. So we know that he was an experimental weapon, and therefore this brings me onto the other theory that I've had throughout the season and the one that I'm currently sticking with. Based on the explanation of the fear virus, I think this is all to do with Omnius. It would make sense that the hidden enemy is indeed a thinking machine, and one that in the source material is known to have come back. And with Desmond being reborn using thinking machine tech, it only adds more weight to the Omnius theory. But while I'm currently sticking with that theory, the third one that I have is the potential connection to the Ixians, which were specifically mentioned with the Ixian smuggler a few episodes prior. To begin with, the Ixians are renowned for their expertise in nanotechnology, and as we learn in this finale, this is precisely what enhances Desmond's right eye. Additionally, it's worth noting that the Ixians might stand against the Empyrean's laws against thinking machines, a sentiment that echoes the outrage caused by Pruitt's toy in Dune Prophecy's first episode. Furthermore, as discussed in previous videos, Leto II's remark in God Emperor of Dune of "Do not fear the Ixians, they can create machines but they can no longer create Arafel" serves as another connection. The Sisterhood refers to this reckoning as Tiran Arafel, which is specifically mentioned at the start of the season, and Leto II's assertion that the Ixians have lost this capability implies that they once possessed it. So as a whole, we'll just have to wait and see, but at this current moment, I do think there's a chance that it's connected to either Omnius, the Ixians, or the Bene Tleilax. Moving on, the other thing that I took from the ending of episode 6 is that when it comes to Valya's arrival on Arrakis, we might be seeing hints of the Sisterhood's impact there in the distant future. In the Dune book and movie, Paul Atreides and Lady Jessica learn that the Bene Gesserit planted the myth of the Lisan al-Gaib on Arrakis thousands of years prior to their arrival. This Bene Gesserit practice is known as the Missionaria Protectiva, and the Bene Gesserit must specifically manipulate the religious beliefs of other cultures, all with the hopes that members of their order can use those myths to their benefit centuries later. The first Dune novel also reveals that the Fremen have their own Mother Superior, modelled in the image of the Bene Gesserit. So by placing Valya on Arrakis, the show might be implying that all of those Sisterhood schemes are now being slowly put into motion. Also, after the Sisterhood unearthed the remains of Dorotea's followers, Valya is further set to confront Dorotea via Lila and her newly gathered acolytes in Season 2. So overall, the journey of Season 1 culminates right where the true narrative looks to be taking off. And with Season 2 now on the way, hopefully we won't have to wait too long to see how all of this goes down. But that was my video explaining the plot and ending for Dune Prophecy Episode 6. I will be posting a video going deeper into my theories for Season 2 and also a full review on Season 1 in the next few days, so stay tuned for more content on the series. But I do hope this breakdown did help some of you guys understand the events and smaller details of Episode 6 a bit better, and overall, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, so don't forget to let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos and news on Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.